I like distinctly remember after nationals, like sitting with you upstairs backstage and like it just not being able to solidify that season and being like, yeah, like the girl beat you, like the girls that were ahead, they were denser and like, you have great density. Like you really objectively do. It's just on the stage. It's like these girls are just like monsters. Like they're just bigger. And people often they're like, oh, Tate's like 5'9", 5'10". I'm like, no, no, she's like 2 inches taller than me. Like you just limmy. Like you've got great structure. It's just like we got to fill it out. And I mean, it's impressive working with you and like being able to see like you went through so many changes after that season. You moved like cross country entirely, switched jobs. But then also it was just like that was the first point that I was like, okay, like I would love to expedite this, but we're very much aligned with like I think I told you like even initially after those first shows is like we have to be careful and thoughtful with like how we go about using any kind of PEDs because you're going to be in the sport for a long time, whether, I mean, assuming you want to be. And that's not something like you don't have the luxury to be more heavy handed with it. And I'll just say, like, I don't think I've ever verbalized it to you, but like, I really, really am grateful that we're very aligned there because with clients that's not always the case for me and that sucks because it's like I'm not doing this for my sake, dude. Like I'm doing it for yours. Like I promise this is not selfish. I just want you to not hate me in 2 years.
Yeah, that's honestly when I transitioned um from being so determined that I was going to earn my pro card as a self-coached athlete to then like it was really after my first national show, after I stepped on stage at junior nationals and realizing like this is not something one that I foresee myself achieving naturally anytime soon. And two, something that I think I can guide myself towards. So when I just made the decision to find a coach, that's what drew me to you, was because I was familiar with your material and your kind of your approach to PEDs and your um, not overly aggressive nature, just kind of like throw everything at the wall, see what sticks kind of a thing. So that's what drew me to you as a coach, was that I think from the beginning, like before we had our first call, I knew we were pretty aligned on our attitude towards that. Um, and then the other thing that like, especially after this season, after seeing what like the national level looks like now and even what the pro level is going to be looking like going forward and kind of how aggressive a lot of people are with their approach to PEDs, I'm even more grateful now for you and your attitude towards it because I feel very, very secure in my longevity in the sport, which I think a lot of people either don't think about or are ignoring intentionally.
Yeah, I mean, you articulated that so well, and it's a tricky position as a coach to have someone as talented as you because like we've talked about this structurally. There are people that like I mean no matter how bad they want it and how many drugs they use, like it's just they're not going to have the potential to take it as far as they might want to, and that is not you at all. Like you like I'm very envious of your glutes. uh but like honestly I do think like with the direction that the division's gone and also just like it's not even the physique, it's even more so the mindset that you have and your awareness and your maturity around like okay these decisions have a cost. So I'm not even just talking about PEDs, I'm even talking about like getting on stage super frequently. I've had so many girls and I'm sure you've had friends, competitors who like you see and you're like you're hitting every national show, you're doing regional shows, trying to like, just make the judges see you. And it's like you haven't had an off season since like, for 4 years. And like, of course you haven't made improvements. Of course you look weathered. And that was something like I really appreciated about like it seemed like even outside of my input, like you did have it in your mind. Like I can be realistic about what improvements I need to make, about where I'm at, about what's going to make me dangerous as a competitor. So like, here's how that's going to play out. It's not going to be me getting on stage in 2 months after I start to miss it. So I mean, like you've been great to coach. You've been very, I see a lot of similarities in the challenges that I struggle with as well. And I think that's been a big advantage too, is, I've talked about this so many times, in reference to you, is saying like, you can have a type A individual who, they don't need hand holding. They don't need someone like to tell them to train hard and to do their diet. They need you to talk them off a ledge because they're suicidal at this point. Like, and I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. I know you put a lot of pressure on yourself to do well this season. So I think to kind of set this up, I want to contrast with how the prep went in 23, getting ready for North Americans, from your perspective.
That was the easiest prep that I have had to date. And easy, I think, mentally and psychologically, because that was the first prep that I had with a coach, with guidance, with somebody just telling me, this is the plan, this is what we're doing, and all I had to do was execute. So that took a huge load off of me psychologically. So it was easier in that sense. Easier in the sense that, like, psychologically I was so checked in, like I was so motivated. I felt so good about what we had done in the off season, and I felt really, really confident in the package that I knew we would bring to stage. So like I was just driven. Like I have never felt, like, to this day, that prep was the most driven I felt in a prep. And then physically it was also just seemed very smooth. Like I remember there was a week, and I think we were probably 6 or 7 weeks into prep at that point. And I had, dropped a few pounds, and then we put Clen in place. And then there was a week where over the course of like 7 days, I think I lost like 6 or 7 pounds. Like it just fell off of me. It was insane. And then from that point, more or less, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that, food started to go back up. So I actually like reversed out of that like really, really seamlessly for several weeks. So physically that was the best that I had felt in a prep also. So like that whole prep, like textbook, perfect programming, perfect execution, like the whole thing just felt so good.
I know. This year, I felt so bad. I'm like, what are we doing wrong? Like, what is happening? But I guess I want to like highlight this too, because this was a learning experience for me as well, because I've had, as you described, like those preps where it's like, it's just moving well. The fatigue's there, the hunger is there, but like, you're not questioning, like, am I going to lose weight? And like the pictures like are promising each week. And you're like, is this right?
Yeah.
And I don't think it occurred to me this season until I sent you that side by side. And I was like, like we're just hitting the point that you started prep at in 23. Like we're just breaking that weight. I think it was like 137, 136.
Yeah, it was 530.
And I've done preps from 152, done preps from 141 that like kicked my ass. But the preps that I've done where I've started heavier, it's like, I know I said this to you at one point, is like, it just like nothing's happening. Nothing feels like it's happening. You're working so hard for like such little, like so little reward the first few months. And I do think I'm like, okay, like moving forward, I'm like, okay, we can be tighter in the off season, in the sense, not that you weren't tight with it. I was very much at the time like committed to like, yeah, I think weight's going up appropriately. But now this was like, it was honestly, this season was the first time I was like, okay, like here is now the consequence of that. And here's the consequence of like putting so much fat loss into one go. And then like, even like physically, there's the aspect of it, like you're very capable, but then what I didn't anticipate was the mental side of it, which I think is completely reasonable. And I've been there myself so many times, is like knowing that like, shoot, like I'm going to have to work at 110% the entire time just to make it in on time.
Yeah.
And that's where I think like we can be more strategic about how we structure that and have more foresight to be like, okay, like we're not going to start a prep with that starting weight in mind, where you have like multiple months before we're in striking distance. I think like honestly, like in that 140 range is going to be like perfect for you to kick things off, because like at your height, I mean, like this time you competed at like 119, your pro debut, and like you looked phenomenal. And I think the conditioning was there. But like I think the girls at your height, I think realistically they're getting on stage like 125 to 130.
Yeah.
And that's scary to think about. Like,
Big girl.
yeah, yeah. And I guess with that, like, you know, when we moved into the off season, I've done 4 podcasts today, so it's a recording day for me. Uh, so we're caffeinated up now.
Yeah.
But in one of them, I was talking about, I used you as reference too, because like you're one of the clients that I moved to 3 upper days in the off season because I mean, like your glutes, Diamond and glutes, Sandy loves your glutes, everyone in the judging panel loves your glutes. And when we got done with that season, like the focus was largely, okay, we need to build that maturity, that density up top to match. And I mean, like going into that off season, what I mean, now being on the other side of it, what was that like now seeing, okay, like how much muscle did I actually build? Um, yeah.
Um, it's kind of disorienting to think about it a little bit. It was, I knew finishing the season in 2023, I knew like that there was going to have to be some pretty serious growth. I will say that and I think it's kind of the classic like rabbit hole of a bodybuilder is like, I thought mid off season, towards the end of the off season, I thought that I had put more tissue on than I had. Like that's the assumption I made, and maybe not by much, but seeing how high weight got and truthfully like how hard we pushed and how hard I was working, how hard I was training, like I I thought that I would have ended that off season with more tissue, and that's like I will never make that mistake again. I will always be a little bit more like psychologically conservative with my estimations on those types of things. But I do think that I don't regret doing the off season the way that we did. I think that it was beneficial. And I think that I learned it was good perspective for me to see like one, what a like hard push in a structured off season looks like, but then two, it was also perspective on like what is going to be required going forward. Like, that was necessary to get to the physique that I brought to stage this year and the rewards that reaped. But then standing on stage at my pro debut with all these other pro bikini ladies and seeing like truly how much density and size they had on me now even, it's very humbling. But I'm excited because like that's in a lot of ways that's like the essence of bodybuilding. I mean, that's we're building the physique. That's what we do. So like it was it was challenging as an off season because it was so much more intense and such a more severe push than I had ever done before. Um, but it was good because it was perspective of like what is going to be required moving forward, and I think that I needed that.